Okay, good evening. Welcome to tonight's shir. The halacha shir is entitled Birchas Ilanos, the annual bracha for blossoming trees. So today is Wednesday. Yesterday was Rosh Chodesh, and Rosh Chodesh Nisan has lots of interesting halachas. One of them is that is the time traditionally that you begin, where you can start saying this bracha of new blossom. Now, the truth is actually Nisan is not the only time you can say it, and we'll see that from the sources. Let's go through the sheet in front of you. If you're listening online, please email me at j.golker@gmail.com and I'll send you the handout. So the Gemara in Brachas Mem Gimel Amud Beis says the following. It's the first box on the page. Omer Rav Yehuda, Hai man denofik b'yom Nisan. A person goes out in the month of Nisan, v'chazi iloni dekomelablebi, and he sees a tree blossoming. Omer, he says the following, Baruch Shalechiser ba'ilomai klum. Blessed is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who does not lack anything in his whole world. Ubara by brias toivos, and he has created good trees, literally. Create good creations. Ve'ilanos toivos, and good trees. Lehisnahis bohen bnei adam, for people to benefit from. And the Shulchan Aruch in Hilchos Brachas and Siman Reish Chavav brings this Gemara and just expands a little bit on it and says the following: a person goes out to his garden, his fields, and he sees trees which are where flowers are emerging. Omer, he says, now hear the full bracha, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech ha'olam, shelo chisar ba'olamai klum, that nothing is lacking from his world. Ubara by brias tovos, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has created wonderful creations, ve'ilanos tovos, and good trees, lehonos bohen bnei adam, for people to enjoy. You only make this bracha once a year. So it's a good quiz question. How many brachas can you think of that you make once a year? I'll let you think about that. But this is one of them. There are a few. But if you delayed, you didn't get around to it, and you've left it late, so late that the fruit have actually developed now, then lo yivarech, it's too late. So you can't wait so long that the actual fruits have developed. Now, before we go on to some of the details, what is the reason for the bracha? Why did Chazal institute this bracha? So the Aruch HaShulchan says something very interesting. He brings this Shulchan Aruch and based on the Gemara in Brachas, and then he says, Kolomar in the second line, Shenoisen shevach v'hidol Hashem yisparach. It's a praise for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, shebara b'shvil ha'adam, that he created for man, afilu dvarim she'ein bohem hechrechios, even non-essential things, l'chai ha'adam, for human life, k'may pri Ilanos, for example, the fruit of the tree, v'lochein ein mevarchim bracha zu al zeroim v'yirakas. There's no such bracha on grain or on vegetables. It's only on the fruit of the tree. Why? Because grain, wheat and barley, bread and mazonas and vegetables, potatoes and onions, Eluhem hechrechius, because those are essential. You need them to live on. V'loi kein haperes, but fruit is a luxury. It's over and above. It's surplus, and therefore we're giving thanks to HaKadosh Baruch Hu on that which is over and above. Bracha zuhi bracha shel hodah klaris, and generally it's a bracha for al chasto v'tova yisparach, on the kindness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu for nature and the beautiful world in which we live. So that's the Aruch HaShulchan explaining why Chazal instituted this bracha. Now there's some very interesting halachas that come around, and that is, like I said, yesterday was really the time where people start focusing on this bracha, Rosh Chodesh Nisan, based on the Gemara, which says, Hai man denofik b'mei Nisan. But it's a leap year this year. Everything is very, very late. We've seen blossom for several weeks now. Could we have made this bracha a few weeks ago? Is Nisan dafka? Do we have to wait till then? Or can it be earlier? So the Mishnah Berurah says, interestingly, b'mei Nisan, in paragraph 4, Urcha de Milsanaka. This is just a normal time for when trees generally blossom. She'oz derech arsis hachamim lelavlev ha'ilanos. V'uadin b'chodesh acher kol sheroeh halivluv pam rishon mevarech. And it doesn't have to be Nisan. So a person could have made this bracha a few weeks ago, as soon as he saw the blossom. The first time in the season, as it were, in the year, that's when he makes it. Now, and therefore, in a leap year such as the one we've just sort of experienced now, where trees blossom before Rosh Chodesh Nisan, you not only can, but perhaps you should make the bracha earlier, if you remember and you see the blossom. Now, I'll tell you where it's also relevant. What about in a different climate, in a different country, Australia? In the southern hemisphere, right now, this is heading towards autumn time, and we're heading towards winter. So really, the Birchas Ilanos in Australia, anywhere in the southern hemisphere, is around sort of Rosh Hashanah and Kippur time, Sukkot time. So what happens there? So there is a very interesting tshuva of B'tzel HaChochma. B'tzel HaChochma, I put the biography at the bottom there. Very interesting. His name is Rabbi Stern. He was born in 1911, and he started writing his tshuvas at a very young age, even before the war, in 1938, when he was a mere 27 years old. He survived the war, and he was a Rav in Italy and other places, and he spent many years in Australia. So for him, this was a relevant shaila. He says in B'tzel HaChochma, this is in Chelik Vav Siman Lamed Vav Zayin, this is on the top of the next page. Das harbe achronim shenisan lav dafka. Many achronim say that the month of Nisan is lav dafka. Va'ani motzosi mefurish came b'sefer ha'eshkol. And I found a raya for this in the sefer ha'eshkol. Shekosav v'lav dafka b'menisan el bizman shereya ha'perach pa'mishin b'shana atzkan l'shene. So he says quite clearly that it's lav dafka Nisan. It's the first time you see the fruit. So if we're down in Australia, then if it's the first time you see it, it could be Tishri, it could be whenever, then you would say the bracha then. And he brings another source from the Sefer HaRukeach, Kosav Haroya Ilanos Shehutzia Perach K'goyin b'Nisan. For example, in Nisan. But it's lav dafka. It doesn't have to be Nisan, it can be whenever it is. Now, the question is this. Let's say, I don't know if any of you have been to Australia, but let's say you were going on a very exotic holiday. I just spoke to someone yesterday. They plan to be going to Australia in the summer. They're running a camp there or whatever it is. So they actually happen to be going in August. So let's say they get there in August and they're going to be there for a month or so, and they see the blossom. But if they've already made it now, do they make the bracha again over then? Again, 6 months later. And what if they move there? So interestingly, I found in the notes in the Dirshu Mishnah Berurah, this is the last box on the page. Va'af im birech be'eretz Yisrael b'Nisan. A person may have made the bracha either in Eretz Yisrael or here in London or wherever in Nisan. V'nosa achakach lemokum shebei zman livluv ha'ilanos hu b'Tishri. And then he goes to another place, for example Australia, New Zealand, where the time of blossoming is in Tishri. Kosav b'shaylet shuvas lahiris nosan. In the Chuvas of Nosan Gestetner, famous Pesach in Bnei Brak, who passed away about 10 years ago, he says, Shelo yivarech shuv, you don't make the bracha again. Once you've made the bracha once a year, if you happen to travel to Australia, you will not make the bracha again. However, if you are emigrating to Australia, then you do make the bracha. So it depends how long you plan on going for. If you're going just as a shortish visit, then you will not make the bracha again. But if you're going to settle there, then you would make the bracha, and I guess that's the new season for you. Now, a few other just halachas which I culled from the guideline series, just to summarize briefly. There are lechatchilas and b'diavets. In other words, lechatchila, ideally, if one can, when you make this bracha, you should ideally, according to Kabbalah, make it on a whole orchard of trees. But preferably to make it on 2 trees. If there's only 1 tree there, it's okay. But preferably on 2 trees, and not if the fruit is arla. That means if you plant a fruit tree, so in our garden we've got some nice fruit trees. My father's Bracha was a king gardener, so he gave all of us, me and my siblings, a nice fruit tree, and he came and he planted it with the kids, and that was quite an experience. And Baruch Hashem, every year we have a big harvest of apples. So in the first 3 years of the life of that tree, that tree you should not make the bracha on. Nor do you make the bracha on Shabbos Yom Tov. Different reasons are given, some Kabbalistic and some others. Possibly because you might come to pick the fruit of the tree. There's concerns about smelling edible fruits on Shabbos. You can't do that on Shabbos. Preferably you should make it with a minyan, if you can. But again, I don't think I've ever made it with a minyan. I normally make it, our family Golker go into the garden, and we've got 2 trees there, 3 trees, so we do it there. And it's dafka when the tree is blossoming. If you've missed it and it's a bit late and the trees are already budding fruit, then it's okay, even if you didn't see the blossom. But once you've gone beyond that stage, then there's a problem. Preferably you should be outdoors, but the eved, if you want to see it through a window, you can't be bothered to go outside, then that would be okay. And preferably at daytime. It is okay to make the bracha at night time, so long as you can clearly see the blossom. So those are all lechatchila, but di'evad, even without some of those conditions, that would be okay. All right, so that is the bracha of Birchas Ilanos. It's a very beautiful bracha, and it's an opportunity. One feels the spring in the air, and if you go to Golker Park, the daffodils are in full bloom. They're actually, I think, past full bloom now. And it's an opportunity, as the Aruch HaShulchan says, to give praise and thanks to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the wonders of nature and the beautiful world in which we live, and to say this bracha, this annual, very special bracha. It doesn't have to be in Nisan. It can be at the first opportunity where the trees blossom. And in the southern hemisphere, one does it whenever that is, in Tishrei or whenever. If you travel there, you do not repeat the bracha. If you move there, then you do. Again, there are lechatchilas of when you do it, but b'di'evet, you don't need all of those conditions. Okay.
And if you miss Nisan, is okay?